successful coach, strategist, trainer, speaker, is to have an incredible colleague and client, and that's what you are, Joe. And Joe is superb at anything she does, whether it's mortgage, whether it's talk shop, or whether it's radio. So make sure you align with her, and make sure that you invest in Talk Shop, because Talk Shop invests in you. So it's a give and take, it's a collaboration. So I am very honored to be here today and to talk about how we can gain more leads through video. Video is very important to be used properly. Now, there are different definitions of what properly would be nowadays. How many of you remember that back in the day, everything had to be completely produced, right? And it was very, very expensive. And now you have productions, but you also have raw video. And raw video is it's trending. It is what is. However, some of it can be too raw. So there has to be a fine line as to how we use it and how we also use strategy as we are using raw video. So one of the things that actually 3 points that we're going to cover will be brand influence, awareness, and engagement. All of that equals leads. Now, leads look different. We have lead pages, right, to where we capture emails. But there's other ways to capture leads. Case in point, I did a blog on an article, they would call it, on LinkedIn. And I had a few people comment, oh yes, I want to do that. That's one of the things I want to incorporate into my business. And I commented and said, excellent, it's a great thing to do. I appreciate you writing. But I didn't go for the jugular, so to speak. I waited for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I went back and I inboxed those people and said, I noticed that you were talking about wanting to do this. I would love to sit down and talk with you about this prospect. So that is a soft sale, and it's meeting them with what their desire is. That is a warm lead. So people may not think of it as that way. So pay attention to what people are saying in your thread. I had somebody ask me the other day, what is a thread? Okay, so how many of you know what a thread is? All right, Beverly, a thread is what your comments are when you post something online. So you have a comments, right? That would be considered a thread. So pay attention to what people are saying and engage back with them. That's very elementary. However, when people take it the next step and you go to the inbox of Facebook and you say, I noticed you mentioned this. For instance, I may post something about a piano lesson, and someone says, oh, I'm really interested in learning. Well, rather than taking it into a deep conversation, I'm going to inbox them and say, what is your interest in piano? And now we start a conversation. We start to build that relationship. That's a warm lead. That's called conversion, monetizing what you're doing online.
Yeah, I think the first question is, can I ask questions as we go?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really good point. So what if that person that you're in that thread and they've gotten it from somewhere else, so you're not actually a friend with them?
Right.
And then so to inbox them, it doesn't actually show up in their actual inbox, it shows up in their special request.
Sure.
So how does that usually, is that usually viable to do it that way is what I'm trying to ask?
Well, there are a couple ways that you can approach that. One is if you don't know them, then you may want to continue that conversation publicly, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you see that it needs to go to a private conversation, that maybe you need to build that relationship, then I would suggest saying to them, why don't you direct message me, or I'm going to direct message you so we can talk further. That way they know to look for it. Okay. So it really works. I would say the conversion rate when it comes to Facebook Messenger for me is going to be about 75%. So, all right, so effective, yes, sir.
Can I play off that for a second?
Please, yes.
At what point would you send them a connection request on LinkedIn? So they found you through another, but you're not connected as a first or second tier.
Right.
One of the options is send that connection request that you have to have them part of your network.
Absolutely.
Which could then open up the other.
Absolutely. I would do that immediately.
Yeah,
If
okay.
they're commenting on your blog or your
Mhm.
article, absolutely, because they're following you, so why not?
Makes sense.
Right.
Thank you.
And you know, some people may say, well, why would I want to do that if they're not really in my field? Because some people are very particular about that on LinkedIn that
Mhm.
you're talking about.
Mhm.
And so we're talking a little bit about Facebook, we're talking a little bit about
Right.
LinkedIn right now. And within our field of business, being business coaches, obviously most people need what we offer, right? Whether it's a church or whether it's a university or whether it's an entrepreneur.
Right.
So we are more open about who we are connecting with. So it's all strategy. It's customized according to what your field is. That's where the digital strategy comes into effect. Effective video platforms, there are several. It depends on how you're using them. So if you would like to do a group session, someone mentioned a webinar. Webinars are effective, however, if you want to monetize them, they're usually not monetizable. It's very unusual that you're going to make money off of a webinar. What a webinar would be used for would be influence marketing. So if you want to raise your influence, then you collaborate with someone like Joe Garner and someone like Eric. And you say, look, let's do a webinar. And then you start a strategy for your digital presentation, the pre-launch, et cetera, et cetera. And now you get on video. We had a group call, group session the other day with a gospel singer who, and it was called Worship and Lifestyle. And so with Come Into Your Own, also focusing on your talents, that's where that fell in with my digital strategy. And we had several people join us from all over the country on Zoom. Zoom is fantastic. How many of you use Zoom? Okay, Zoom is very user-friendly, and you can also record what you're doing. So you can share it with other people, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, there are different price lines and all of that. Also, getting in there and knowing how to navigate it if you're the one that's in charge, making sure you know how to mute a microphone, making sure you know how to mute video, all of that's very important for it to be effective. We're talking about effective video platforms, so we mustn't have the user knowledge before we actually launch something like that. Another platform that I recommend for not necessarily video, but for it's more audio, but you could do a screen share which would show video, and that is Uber Conference, and it is very simplistic. So
Is that free?
Uber Conference is free. Up to, I believe it's 9 people. After that, I think it's $19 or $20, unless they
And it
raise
does
the
the
price.
screen share thing.
Yes, you can
Yeah, 'cause
screen share
I'm
with
having
Uber
some
Conference.
challenges right now with the one that I'm using. I've got one client that, for the life of her, cannot get into the dang thing. And so I'm
Into Zoom.
no, it's not Zoom. I'm
Okay.
using one called freeconferencecall.com.
Sure, yes, I'm
I've been
familiar
using
with that.
I've been
yes.
using it forever and ever, but everybody else doesn't have a problem. But this, and it's not you, Beverly.
That's right.
But she's constantly having problems,
Sure.
and I think where my struggle is I don't know that her computer is set up right.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's very smart to actually move into something that's user friendly for people that are both tech savvy and non-tech savvy.
And you would say Zoom is that, or Uber
Zoom
Conference?
is great because they can just call in. They don't have to be on video to go on to Zoom.
Well, I mean, even the conference call, they can just call in, but they
same
don't
thing.
get
Yes.
they can't view so the goal is here is I need them to be able to view
Yes.
whatever I'm looking at.
Okay.
Or I need to look at whatever they're looking at.
Sure. Uber Conference is a great source for
So you think Uber Conference is better than Zoom in
Absolutely.
this case?
I love Uber Conference for that type of thing, yes. I use it with all my digital clients.
Okay, thank you.
Sherri, can we share a screen also in Uber Conference as well?
You can share a screen on both. I believe you can on Zoom. Now, I did not share a screen when I was on, but yes, you can share a screen on both. And if you prefer to Uber Conference, then of course you could have a video. For instance, you can share a screen on Zoom because I did it. I shared a screen and I played a video. You can do the same thing on Uber Conference. But you cannot see each other on video, where Zoom is great for that. If you want to have a collaborative experience with your group, you want to be able to see people. Now, if they call in, you're not going to see them. You're going to hear them. But if they're on video, you will see them.
In another program that I was just in recently, they made a good comment about that, in that if you have something that's online and you're trying to build that relationship, you should always start with where you can see each other, at least for the very first one. That helps you build the relationship better. But then when you segue into the future ones, it doesn't necessarily have to be video. That just was the comment made.
That's really good input. Make sure that that person has all the information they need to be effective. Because if they struggle with that video component and you're trying to gain them as a client, then automatically they are. Right, exactly. So you just be very cognizant of that. So that's when it comes to group platforms.